You're about to hear a man describe killing his wife like he's reading a grocery list. Listen closely. I just shot my gun in my house. My wife's dead. My little boys are going to run down here. That's Kenneth Hardin Jr. He said those words less than 48 hours after murdering his millionaire wife, Carrie. Here's what you need to know right now. First, Kenneth didn't just kill Carrie. He tried to burn her body, and it almost killed him, too. Second, while police searched his home for evidence, Kenneth was watching them do it, live, through his own security cameras. You'll see exactly how in this video. Carrie Hardin wasn't just a wife and mother. She built a nurse staffing company from nothing into a multi-million-dollar business operating in all 50 states. She had everything, and in one August morning, she lost all of it. If a case this disturbing deserves your full attention, hit subscribe now, because what Kenneth did next, and how long he thought he could get away with it, is about to get worse. This isn't a story about a sudden snap. This is a story about warning signs everyone ignored, a decade of them. You'll hear directly from Kenneth in his own words. You'll hear him try to explain it, and you'll hear exactly how a 500-mile manhunt across 4 states ended in a motel parking lot. But first, you need to see what detectives found buried in that yard, because what they uncovered changed everything about this case. Hours before Kenneth confessed to his father, that Georgia home looked like any other quiet morning. Here's what detectives found when they got there. Evidence Kenneth Hardin Sr. got a phone call no father should ever get. His son confessed to killing Carrie, then said he was running. Kenneth Sr. called police immediately. Investigators reached the home on Merlin Court within the hour. What they found inside told a story of violence and a desperate cleanup. Blood stained the floors. Someone had tried to scrub it away. But cadaver dogs led officers outside, straight to a pile of yard debris. Underneath it, they found Carrie's remains. She'd been shot multiple times. Here's Promise 1, delivered. Carrie wasn't just found. She was hidden, buried, and burned, all before her own sons woke up for school that morning. Picture Carrie 6 months earlier. A registered nurse who built her own company from a spare bedroom into a business spanning all 50 states. Picture her signing the paperwork on a new job offer at a veterans hospital. Picture her packing boxes quietly, planning to leave with her 2 sons before Kenneth ever found out. She was 10 days from a completely different life. That's the detail that changes everything about this case. Because this wasn't just an argument that spiraled out of control. Friends told police that a decade earlier, Kenneth had smashed through a bathroom window to reach Carrie, then chased her down the street with a gun. That warning sign existed for 10 years. Nobody stopped it. Detectives now had a motive. They had a crime scene. They had a body. What they didn't have was Kenneth. He was already gone, and the clock was ticking on a search that would stretch across 4 states. Where did he go? And how did he manage to stay one step ahead of every officer looking for him? The answer to that question is something almost nobody saw coming. Kenneth had a set of eyes police didn't know about. Key question. Here's the question that should unsettle you. How did a man running from police already know his foster son was a suspect? The answer: Kenneth never actually left the crime scene. Not really. He still had phone access to his home security system. While detectives searched his house, Kenneth watched them. He listened to their conversations, and every word he heard triggered his next move. Promise 2, delivered. Watch how one overheard detail led directly into the next. 1. Detectives described his black Cadillac with red racing stripes near the mailbox. Because he heard that, he pulled over within the hour and stripped every stripe off the car. 2. Now driving a car he thought was unrecognizable, he still needed new plates. So he walked into a body shop near Covington, Louisiana, and paid a stranger $100 for a random tag off the shelf. 3. Worried his business phone was being tracked, he bought a burner phone instead, using it only for GPS.
How did Carrie, the mother of his children, end up dead? But first, Kenneth clears the air about who is and isn't involved, and the shocking way he's managed to stay one step ahead of police since day one.
And have an understanding that you want to move forward with talking to us?
Yes, ma'am, and I need to do that for Elijah's sake, based on what I heard from your conversations yesterday.
What
it's most appropriate to do that.
Okay. Well, you fill me in.
Well, Elijah arrived at around, I guess, 1:30, 2 o'clock, somewhere in that time frame. I was not privy to the conversation specifically that you had at the van. However, when the staff, including yourself, came back over to the gate area, there was a lot of conversation that would suggest that somehow Elijah's involved in something. He's not. We took on Elijah when he was 15.
Right out of the gate, Kenneth wants to make sure authorities know his foster son Elijah had nothing to do with his crime. But how does he know Elijah was a person of interest to begin with? The answer is simple. After fleeing to Louisiana, Kenneth still had access to the home security system, and as investigators arrived, he watched and listened in through his phone as they processed the scene. The information he hears would influence his actions while on the run, including altering the appearance of his Cadillac to avoid detection. But to protect his friends and family, he knew it was time to come clean.
My movements stopped around that time because I'm like, now I was not intending on Elijah to be caught in this. Like, I was like, what? You know, or Johnny, or my sons, they have, or my father, they have zero to do with anything that's going on. So I needed to make sure that that's clear. I have an attorney, I have multiple attorneys, but I need to make sure that that's clear that them boys, Elijah, Jonathan, Kenneth and Kingston, they have zero to do with any of this.
Who's Johnny?
Johnny's a long-term friend of mine. I met Johnny.
He doesn't live.
Subscribe now, because what Kenneth did in the hours after this is almost harder to believe than the shooting itself. He poured gasoline over her body and tried to burn the evidence. The flames shot back so violently, the can nearly exploded in his hands. He calls all of it protection. Protecting his sons from seeing blood, protecting his image as a respectable man. He describes murder like damage control. Do you believe Kenneth snapped for 1 second? Or had he been building toward this for years? Drop your verdict below. The courtroom delivered its answer. But one conversation, recorded on a jail phone line, still haunts everyone who hears it. Unresolved close EA. A judge handed down the final word. Kenneth Hardin Jr. pleaded guilty to felony murder, concealing a death, and firearm possession during a felony. Life without parole, plus 15 years. But the story doesn't end in a courtroom. After his arrest, Kenneth called his father. His foster son Elijah got on the phone. A 20